And we are live. 1, 2, 3. Hello, I am Jennifer Von Stein, and I am Chroma's resident artist, and I am streaming live today from my attic studio, and I am so excited about today's live painting demo. I'm going to wait just a few minutes for some people to pop on. I understand it takes a while for people to join the connection. I apologize for starting a minute late. I realized I would be streaming on Wi-Fi, which I have learned is not the best thing to do. You want to try and stream from a wired connection. So as people join in, just thank you so much for joining Chroma, and thank you so much for joining me, Jennifer Von Stein, to watch me paint and maybe paint along with me this phenomenal pattern from artist Erica Joanne, and this is her Mermaid Kisses and Starfish Wishes pattern. I am thrilled to do this. Erica Joanne is a longtime teacher using our josonja Artist Paints and Mediums products, and she is really just phenomenal. Creates these amazing packets, and she's a little bit unique. She likes to use not only josonja paints, but she will also use colored pencils and some other things, and when she creates her work, she very graciously gave me permission to use one of her patterns today in her class. Now, I want to make it very clear, I am Chroma's resident artist, but I am not a certified Erica Joanne teacher. My focus tends to be more with fine art paintings, as you might have learned from some of the other videos that I've created these past few weeks for you guys. But art is art, and it is amazing the things that you can do when you start looking around for some inspiration. So I am making it very clear, if you are looking to create this amazing piece of art, by all means, visit Erica's website. We'll make sure that we link to her website and to her page. You'll be able to purchase this pattern. She'll be able to hook you up with some classes or with a certified teacher near you. Highly, highly recommend it. You know, creating decorative art like this, where you are repeating the same pattern over and over again, really is a skill, and one that is best taught by one of her certified teachers. But as I said, Erica was incredibly gracious and gave me permission to use this painting as my basis for inspiration and just kind of reproduce it in my own unique style. So it is similar, but it is not identical. I will not be using colored pencils. I'll just be using some paint. I'll be making a few other additions to the work as we go along. All right, so once again, I've seen some people have joined. Thank you so much for joining us. Jennifer Von Stein, and if you have any questions, by all means, please just type them into the comments. I can kind of see them. It's a little difficult when you paint and looking at the feed at the same time. But any questions, by all means, put them in the comment. Shoot me an email, contact us via our Facebook page or not. All right, so let's get started here. So this was my pattern. Erica originally designed this pattern to be done using the josonja, fine art paint or matte flow acrylic, to be done on watercolor paper, accented with colored pencils and a few little rhinestone sparkles. I'm kind of using materials that I have on hand. So what I have here is that what I have created, and I'll pull this up to you, is a version that was done on canvas. So I made a couple additions along the way. I mixed up some paints myself, used some products that I had on hand. So that is what I'm going to show you, how I went from this pattern packet done on watercolor paper to what I did here on canvas. Oh, hello people who are joining in. Thank you so much. All right. So the first thing that I did was that I had a blank canvas. I had some 8x10 canvases lying around. So that's what I used as my base. What I did from there, because Erica's packet is designed to be on a 5x7 watercolor paper, excuse the messy mess in my attic. I stream from my attic. That's where I've been put, for lack of a better word. So you see all the things going on in the attic. And as I always say, like many Americans, I am working from home these days. I have two small children, so if you hear the pitter-patter of little feet or the shouts of "Mom, Mom," that's real life. But they all know I've kicked everyone off the internet, so hopefully we're all good. They know I'm here for an hour. All right, where was I? We are what I did. So I took her pattern and I just put it in through a scanner and I blew it up a little bit. I blew it up so it would be a true 8.5 by or an 8 by 10 printout. And where did my printout go? I had everything prepared, and of course now when I need it to be paired, it's not here. I can just work with this. So what you want to do then is once you get it to scale is that you would want to cut it. That's probably one of my references that's I hear falling on the ground. And now I want to get it onto my surface. Now again, this is just an 8 by 10 surface. Normally, I'm a big fan of sealing your surface, of making sure that you gesso your surface so you have a little bit of tooth going on with it. But for this piece, that's not what I'm looking for. Because the original is kind of created in a washy watercolor type of style, I am not going to do anything to my surface. I'm going to keep it as is. One of the reasons why I always recommend that artists will prime themselves a pre-primed canvas is because sometimes they don't have the tooth or maybe waxes and fillers that have been added, making it a little bit more slick, and sometimes the paint doesn't adhere. For this particular painting, that's going to be okay because I'm going for that washy type of technique. All right, so how do I get this onto here? I'm using a very old-fashioned technique where I'm just using my handy-dandy charcoal. Most of us have some charcoal pencils lying around or a piece of charcoal, something you steal from the grill even. That is charcoal. What I want to do is just get my charcoal onto the back of this. And then, using a sharp pencil or a stylus, I'll be able to transfer it actually onto a canvas. Works very, very well. I can hold my pattern up to the light so I can see. I do not need to cover the entire surface. In fact, I don't recommend that you do. I recommend that you just put the charcoal over the areas of the pattern where you need. Now, I'm using a nice black compressed charcoal. I think this is one of my charcoals from General Pencil, a great American company. If you want to purchase some products made here in the USA, support the businesses that we really need it these days. It's been hard with everything shut down. I hope everyone is staying safe, washing those hands, using this time to find some time to create. I know that's something that I have done. All right, so I'm just covering this with charcoal. Charcoal is messy. I did have this conversation with one of my artist friends. Her son is an amazing artist. And I said, oh, did he do this work in charcoal? And she's like, no, just pencil. I'm afraid of the mess. Using a compressed charcoal can be a bit messy, but they do make charcoal pencils. So if you're interested in using charcoal, you can always use a pencil as well. All right, so I am just kind of turning it to see how much I've covered. All right. There is a good chance that before this video is over, I end up with charcoal on my face. I think that's happened every time I've made one of these paintings so far. All right, now it looks pretty heavy. I'm just blowing a little bit off, and now I'm going to grab my canvas. And typically I would have this, cut out so that it is already where I want it to be. But of course, for some reason, I can't find it when I need it. If you want to, you can always just put a little piece of artist tape to hold it steady. If you're going to do this on watercolor paper or on paper, you want to make sure you have some type of very low tack tape, like an artist tape, so it doesn't accidentally rip the paper. All right, I think that's good. I'm going to not quite as tight as I want, so let's just bend it. We'll do the old school method. There we go. All right. Okay. Now, I've got my paper on here. Now what? Now, I'm simply going to transfer my design. I'm simply using a colored pencil. And reason I recommend a colored pencil is so you can see what you've transferred already. So all you're going to do is just go over your dots and go over this beautiful pattern, which is included in Erica's packet. Again, I can't recommend, Erica and her wonderful designs. She's got such a great, unique style. And it's so whimsical and so fun. So I'm just going to go over all these little dots to get my pattern onto my surface. The pressure of my pencil is going to get those charcoal lines onto my surface. So here I am just, transferring. Doing a design that's this kind of complex, I would recommend that you do like one section at a time. What's great about a starfish is that they're a little bumpy, so you don't need to really worry about having super, super straight lines. There we go. And I'm just circling. Again, you can say it's great when you use a colored pencil so you can see what you've missed. So I highly recommend that. Don't just use a black pencil. I did that the first time and I kind of forgot to outline an arm. Live and learn. And I will share my wisdom with you. So colored pencils for this project, this method of transferring works best. Now, I'm not going to show you every little dot that I have transferred, but that is what you want to do. I have found that I do not transfer my writing. I'm not going to transfer the Mermaid Kisses and the Starfish Wishes yet. I'm going to do that at the end. That's why when I originally laid down the charcoal, I only laid it down on the body of my starfish. So what does this look like when it's all said and done? You can see how nicely everything is transferring to the canvas. And I'll just move this out of the way for now. Boop. Oh, that was a good shot of my mess. And what I will end up with is this. Let's get this over here so you can see. I'll pull it down a little bit. There we go. And this is my nice pattern that's there. Now you might be wondering, what's that back of that Kindle thing there for? I'm actually just going to kind of, you could slip it behind if you need to, if you wanted to have, or something that is hard if you're doing this on canvas so it's a little bit steady. If you are not used to the give of a canvas, you might feel more comfortable that way. That's also a good thing to do when you are transferring your design. So you're transferring onto something hard versus having that give from the surface. Hopefully that makes sense. So that is why that was there, but I'm not going to use that right now. Now we get to the fun part. Now we add some paint. Move this stuff out of the way. All right, so where are we now? Well, according to Erica's instructions, which are included with this, with her pattern packet, what you want to do is that you want to create a nice washy mix of some sapphire. I'm just going to put this off to the side. And some jade. So we're using sapphire and jade. And I just put a couple little dots out. Let me turn this here. And then this is a really fun project to do. Let me put this down a little bit so you can see. Move these off to the side. I'll put those up to the top so you can see my palette a little bit more. I tried to be organized here and get it all together, but clearly that's not my forte. All right, now I'm taking a wet watercolor brush. I'm using something that has a little bit of a softer brush, not something that is going to be super tight, because I want to create kind of a flowing wash. I'm just using water. That's all I'm using right now. So I've got some water, and I'm just going to make a wash of my sapphire and my jade. Erica recommends a 1-to-1 ratio. Use your judgment. Do you want it to be bluer? Do you want it to be greener? But the key is you want to have it be a light wet wash. Now, what I'm going to do next is I love hearing things fall on the floor, is take my wet wash and I'm just lightly going over this. I find that I like to start from the center and work my way out. And you can see how I'm getting some bubbles there. That's because this is one of those inexpensive canvases and paint isn't quite adhering as much as I would like. For this purpose, that is okay. So, using a watercolor brush, and this is a 10 soft sable from Silver Brush, I can just a mop would work out well. Put some down. All right. And now I don't want to have these harsh lines. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a rag or a paper towel and lightly take some off to get this mottled effect. That actually probably was a little bit too much, but that's okay. I'll be able to build that up again. Let me show you on this area. So knowing that that was a little bit too washy, I'm not going to have my brush as wet, but still have a nice flowing paint. And now I'm just going to start at the center, kind of work my way out. Move my palette over a little bit. Again, if you have any questions, please just type them in the comment box. We will definitely be linking to Erica's website and to her Facebook page. Erica does some amazing paint-alongs. I think they're on Thursday nights. You should definitely check them out on Facebook. There we go. I want this to be a little bit bluer, so I added some blue. Now I'm going to take my rag, my paper towel, and just kind of take some off. There we go. Probably a little too light for me, but that's okay. I can always go back in, add some more, and I'll just take a little off. There we go. Get a little bit deeper color in here. And I can do that down here as well. That's a little green. So let's take this, add a little water. There we go. And you don't have to use a paper towel. Most of us have paper towels. Hopefully we have paper towels. Hopefully that's not one of the things that have all been stockpiled. And just paper towel. You could use a rag, an old t-shirt, a sponge. A sponge would be great. An old sea sponge. I think I have one actually here in my pocket too. There we go. Let this out. There we go. And while it is still wet, again, I'm just going to take my crumpled paper towel and just get some out. I'm going to leave it a little bit darker near the arms of the starfish, but I don't want it to be perfect. Did I mention do not make your starfish arms perfectly straight? That will not look good. Starfish are great because they're just a little wrinkly, so they don't have to be absolutely perfect. All right, I like this bottom better. And now, just because it seemed to work better, I'm just going to turn this around so you can watch me paint this part some more. Again, this process goes very quick. If you find that your paint is starting to dry on your surface and you're not able to lift, try spraying it with a little bit of water. That can work to get that paint wet. But you do want to do this kind of quickly. You don't want to be fussy at this point. You want to get that color down because you're putting it down and then you are removing it. There we go. Just real light. There we go. Boop. Beautiful, beautiful. And now I'm just going to do this end down here as well. Mixing it up. Thinking I like the bluer, but maybe I'll add just a little bit more green in here, a little bit more of that beautiful jade color. There we go. And starting at the center, working my way out. Making my brush just a little bit wetter. There we go. Now, a question that I sometimes get when I teach using this charcoal method is, oh my gosh, isn't that going to make all my paints really dirty with the charcoal? A little bit. It can. If your charcoal is really dark, when you've transferred it, blow on it lightly go over it with a rag to erase some of those marks. There we go. All right. That doesn't look too bad. The only thing that I think is that this is just a little too light. I'd rather have it be a little bit darker. So I'm just touching my painting to see if it's fairly dry, and it is fairly dry. So I'm just going to go over this some more. There we go. And now I can just take it up. And maybe over here I'll bring in some green. I don't want it to be in an exact, precise spot. This is just supposed to kind of give the idea of the seafloor. Does everyone love starfish? I love starfish. I think they're so amazing and they're just so beautiful. All right, so pretty much there is my background, and if I want to add some more color onto it, I certainly can do that when we get to the next part. But now what I need to do is get my starfish painted. We're going to use the exact same technique. Wet brush, washi paint. Let me just turn this over to the side here. I'll just wipe this off. My palette that I'm using today is the Oh So Fancy ceramic plate. So, I mean, for little things like this where I'm just using a little bit of paint, I think that's fine. When I'm really going to town and mixing things up, like when I did my larger works on canvas, I like to have, a big palette that I can hold. A plate is fine. Wow, we've got a lot of people joining us. Thank you so much. Make sure that you like Chroma's page so you can stay up to date on some of the things that are happening. And if you've got questions, by all means, please just put them in the chat box and I'll see if I can get to them and answer them in time. All right. So now we're going to do the starfish body. Now in the original, oops, here we go. That I have over here, you can see that it's kind of a browny coral color. One of the reasons I think that works so well is because that orange coral is a complementary color of these blue greens. So it's going to help pop. So what we're using for the starfish is that we're going to be using a mix, pretty much a 1-to-1 of our josonja mustard seed. I'm just going to put this off a little bit over here. Beep. You'd think by now at my age I wouldn't say boop when I pour out paint, but I do. Even when I'm by myself, I do that. I don't know. And we're also going to be using this gray color here, and this is our wild rose. Just a little bit. Boop. I'm not even trying to do that. I'm sorry. All right, and you can hear I'm getting my wet brush out. Still using the same brush. I've just cleaned it. And now I'm just going to make a mix. About a 1-to-1 is what Erica recommends of the mustard seed and the wild rose. For complete instructions on how to do this, by all means, please go to Erica Joanne's website. You'll be able to order this pattern packet and create her wonderful piece. You can find a certified Erica Joanne teacher there who can teach you how to do this much, much better than me. This is my own little twist on her pattern. All right. I personally want my starfish to be a little bit more on that coral side. So I am using just a little bit more of that wild rose. So again, the same technique. I'm just kind of putting down my color. Oh, but Jen, wait, aren't I going to cover up all those dots on the starfish? You might, but you might not. I have found that they pretty much stay. And now I'm just going to wet my brush and take this off to the edge. Do not make the arms of your starfish straight. But don't make them so super bumpy that they are so hard. This looks incredibly like blood red on the screen. I'm just looking at it. And now I'm just going to model it out using that same technique of taking a rag. There we go. This is going to help get the idea and the impression of the bumps. There we go. Those way cool bumps on the starfish. Oh, thank you. Someone noticed my necklace. Yep, I put on a starfish for today. Thank you. I also thought, the starfish was a great reminder that summer is on its way, and hopefully fresh times and some new chapters for many of us in our lives. There we go. Hopefully we'll be able to see some more of our loved ones and really appreciate all of the freedoms that we have and this great country of ours. There we go. All the great countries for all my international viewers. I shouldn't go on like that. I apologize. All right. Now, doing another arm. Work quick. You don't want it to be, because you don't want to have lines form on this painting. It's a very wet wash that I'm putting down here. But it's not so wet that it is, or I shouldn't say it's so wet. It's a wet wash, but I'm making sure that I have these really rich, strong colors still. That's what's wonderful about josonja. The josonja paints are so pigmented that you can create washes like this, and they're still, big, strong color. I'm getting a fresh paper towel here. That was getting a little too wet for me. There we go. Take some off. All right, I like how that looks. And let's get some more down here. Oh, I hear one of my lovely friends buzzing around in my attic studio. That would be a stink bug. So hopefully he does not land anywhere near the camera, or you might hear me scream. Do not like them. I'm fine with bugs as long as they are, outside, not in my house. 130-odd-year-old house. There are little cracks and ways they can get in. Oh well. Here we go. Paint on there. Again, this is where one of those, a watercolor brush is going to serve you well, or a mop brush. Something that's a little bit loose where you can smush the paint around. All right. It's okay if my edges of my starfish are a little bit darker. That'll help give the impression of some dimension, of some three-dimensionality. I think that's a word. It's a word now. Three-dimensionality. It is for me. Look, if Lewis Carroll could make up words, I can make up words. How else are words going to come around in the language? All right, someone had to make them up. Okay, there you go. This is how you do that first base of the starfish. It's such a fun technique, easy to do. Wet washy paint. You get a rag, paper towel. Let me just make sure that you see what I'm doing. When I am taking off my paint, I am not rubbing it like I would, clean my counter, where I spray on and take paint, and wipe it off. I'm pushing down and pulling up. Let me just pull right there. I just spritz with a little bit of water, pushing down, pulling up, pushing down, pulling up, pushing down, pulling up, pushing down, pulling up. There we go. There. Now you can see how it started to dry there? That's what I mean where you don't want to have a line. So I'm just going to spray a little bit more and cross my fingers so I can work with that line. If not, I might just have to, do some fudging with it when I add some dots and some other things to this starfish. Oh, that looks a little bit better. All right, so now what I would do is that I would set this off to dry. Does not take very long to dry at all, but due to the magic of television, ta-da! I already have one that is dry. There we go. Looking at the magic of television, let me just show you this. When you are done with your starfish, this is what it should look like when you've transferred your design and you've used a colored pencil or some other thing that you can actually see on when you've transferred your drawing. That's what it looks on the back. All right, so what am I going to do now? If I hold this up, I've got kind of a funky camera. You might not be able to see the dots, but I can see the dots. And if you can't see the dots, you have your reference that you can figure out where they need to go. So at this stage, you can decide what it is that you want to do. This is what I call my second stage, where maybe I add a little bit more depth to my creature. Maybe I want to add a little bit more depth to the sea. And this version that I created, this was still a little too washy for me. I took off, I think, a little bit too much paint. So I'm just going to go back around on my palette, and I'm going to just mix up a little bit more of my jade and my sapphire, just with some water right now. And I'm just going to kind of smush some things around in a pattern, just to give it some more texture, a little bit more variation. We're going to be doing more with this, but I just want to have some more kind of blues. And I don't want it to have lines, so I'm just taking some water, smushing it around. And maybe a little bit more over here because this looks really washed out. Looks very washed out on camera, not nearly as washed out in person, but not quite modeled as I would like on the background over here. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now, what do I want to do for my starfish? Well, there are two things that we want to do to the starfish next. We want to give the starfish some depth, and then we want to add some of the cool little white dots on his spine. I guess that's the word we would use. I should have looked up the anatomy of a starfish before I did this. Next time. What we're going to do is, in Erica's version, this pretty much is where you were done with paint for now. And then she would move on to colored pencils. I don't have that many colored pencils at my disposal. I have a few that I can steal from my kids. But with her pattern and with her sets, you can get the actual colors that you're going to be using to create her beautiful version. So, using my head, what can I do? I'm using paint. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to use a little bit of the josonja burnt sienna. And I'm just going to take a little bit. And again, what I'm going to be doing is making a wet kind of a wash. There we go. Same brush. Let me just dry my brush off. I don't want it to be so super wet. More like a damp brush. There we go. I found that for this, the burnt sienna tends to work well. And now I'm just going to kind of follow my shading pattern. In Erica's set, there is not just a template, but there's also a shading pattern, so you can follow where you need to kind of put your dots and where you want to make some areas a little bit darker than others. So that's what I'm just going to do. I'm just going to kind of put some around here. And I'm not making it so harsh. No straight lines. But you can see that the burnt sienna is a semi-transparent color, so making it a little bit wetter is going to help that transparency come through. Make it even more so. There we go. Maybe make it a little bit darker along his edge. And we'll add a little bit more over here. Oops, that's a little bit too dark. So again, I can just take a rag, I can take a paper towel and just model it up. In Erica's pattern, she recommends that you kind of follow the darker areas they've already had on your starfish to really help pump up those values so that you have a light, a medium, and a dark value. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm going where some of my areas were darker. I'm putting those down, making some areas just a little bit darker. So I have light, medium, and darks, kind of glancing every now and then at my shading pattern. And this is that kind of, I'm counting my sides, pentagon shape that's in here. I should know this. My son had a geometry test not too long ago. There we go. All right. And that's a little bit too harsh right there, so we're just going to let that dry. Soften that up. I shouldn't say let that dry. Soften it up is the word I'm looking for. And now I'll just kind of go over to this leg. I'm getting some down over here. And you can see that just by doing a technique like this, it really gives that idea of the mottling on a starfish, because they're not all solid colors. Well, at least this starfish isn't. Some might be, some species. That should be figured a starfish. There we go. And let's put a little over here and some down here. And we're going to make it just a little bit darker, usually just a little bit darker, you know, where he'd be up a little bit on his legs. So in the curves, we'll make it a little bit darker. And a little bit over here. Okay, that's looking good. Now I'm going to let this dry, and while this is drying, I'm going to do the same technique, but I'm going to be doing it on the background. So for this, what I'm going to do as I'm going to scooch back over here. Erica recommends a gray pencil that you'd be using to kind of shade along the starfish. And again, on her website, you will be able to reference her pattern. She'll include a beautiful drawing, a full color drawing of what your aim is to be. She's a master at this, so check that out. Check out one of her certified teachers. This is my interpretation. Not having a great pencil, but having paint, I'm using our mid-value gray, or Nimbus gray, as it used to be known. Mid-value is a little bit more of a good way to describe it. So I'm putting down a little bit of a mid-value gray, aka Nimbus gray. And I'm mixing just a little bit of my sapphire with it as well. So I've got my sapphire and I've got my gray. So I have kind of a mid-value to a darker blue. There we go. If I wanted to, if I found that my background was a little bit greener, I would just add a little bit more jade to it too. There we go. And now looking at the reference, she is doing kind of a stippling technique, working darker to lighter when she does with her pencils. But because I'm using paint, I'm making it a little bit darker and then just kind of washing it out. There we go. Floating that color out. Where I start to see lines develop, those harsh edges, I'm just going to take my rag and soften it up. There we go. So it's not so precise. You really want to try and avoid those harsh edges as much as you can in a technique like this. I mean, and it's fun. It's underwater. I hear something. Oh, nope, it's construction outside. I thought it was my children. All right, how am I on time? Oh, I'm doing good. All right, there we go. Now, if you're just tuning in, thank you so much, and thank you for watching us. It's watching me do my little starfish here. And thank you, Erica, for your generosity and your grace to let me use your pattern as my basis for inspiration. There we go. Now that is a little bit, definitely going to form a line. So I'm just taking a wet brush, just with some water. There we go. When this workshop is over, this little painting demo, I'll make sure that I have my email in the comments box. So if you have any questions about what I did at a particular time or particular colors or whatnot, I can help you out for the true version of this to really create it the right way. Again, Erica's site will be the one that you want to go to. This is my kind of painted interpretation as opposed to her wonderful mixed media approach. There we go. All right. And we'll add a little bit more shadow over here. Staying along the edges of the arms. If I start to see a harsh edge, I just take it off, rub it out, and float it out. Go. There we go. Okay, not too bad. A little bit light here, but that's okay. All right. And you can see how these blues and these brown coral colors are really contrasting well with each other. And that's because they're complementary colors. It's helping them make that orange pop out. It's also a warmer color, and warmer colors naturally will come forward in a painting or in other composition. Now, at this stage, I'm just feeling it right now. Again, the paint's dry pretty quick, still a little wet, so I'm going to annoy you for 1 second and use that handy dandy tool, the hair dryer. Hopefully I don't blow the feed. See, that was wet. You don't need to do that much. Just enough to help those really wet areas dry up. There we go. Good. So now I can move on to the next stage, which is where I start to put all those lovely little dots. If you cannot see them on your drawing or on your painting because you've painted all on top of it, this is a time where you just want to go back to your reference and kind of see where the dots were. Happily, they are dots. There are no starfish police that are going to come out and tell you that you don't have enough dots or they're not in the right spot. But it is helpful to follow that wonderful pattern that you have. So, no, I'm not getting these colors right now. Let me put these down over here. So, for this, I'm going to use some of our white. And if you folks haven't seen it, this is our josonja matte flow acrylic. This is some of our new packaging that we're very excited about to help people really know that it is a fine, artist paint, because that's what it is. The josonja are light fast. They are professional acrylics. They are unlike other decorative paints that are on the market. These really are remarkable. This work that I do is going to be just as bright and vibrant today as 50, 100 years from now, because we're using light fast colors. All right, so I'm taking a little bit of my warm white. I'm going to put some off to the side. And because I want my bumps to be a little bumpy, I want them to stand up, I'm going to actually incorporate a texture medium with this. I have some of our impasto gel or atelier heavy gel here in my studio. And so I'm just going to take some of this out. You could use josonja texture paste. That would work great in white. Put that off to the side. This gel dries clear of my atelier gel. So I'm going to just put this off to the side. On here, my other little table. And now I'm not going to use my wet brush right now, my watercolor brush. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a stiffer brush. So I have a couple of points, a couple of round brushes, and I'm taking one that is one that you can't see, just a little bit of a stiffer brush. And I'm taking my paint and I'm mixing it into my compound. I can see the difference. I don't know if you can on the feed, but I can definitely see the difference between my warm white and my gel medium that I've got here, my atelier gel medium. There we go. You can see that it's definitely going to be holding some peaks. And so now I'm going to take this. My brush is kind of dry. It is not wet. It is not really damp. And now I'm just going to start to make these dots. Now note what I'm doing with my dots. Over here. Good, nice point. I am down, up, down, up. My brush is basically, it is straight up and down. It is a vertical brush. It is not on the side. Up, boom, 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 boom. Some are going to be bigger than others. And I'm following my pattern that I have in here. And the dots tend to go in clumps. So they're not perfect. There are no dot police. And now I'm just going to go around arm by arm. I have found that I'm starting to talk to myself as I paint as opposed to talking to you. Hopefully you can hear me. I have found that it works well for me when I kind of focus arm by arm, because if not, I kind of get confused about where I am. So I'm just kind of doing my patterns up and down. There's this great lines that kind of go in the center of their arms. And this is where it's so great, because you've already established a bit of that modeling on the creature, that it will help just pop it out and really bring it up to life. Now, I will do this until I have my dots down in my pattern, and they're in a pleasing fashion that I like. And then I'm going to let that dry. Now, nobody wants to see me fill this up with all these dots, because that might take a while, and it can take a little bit of time when you do all these dots. So again, zoom, by the magic of television, ta-da! We have one that I've already dotted. Ta-da! Isn't that amazing? It took a little while to do, not horribly long, but not enough for the you want to watch me make dots the entire next 5 to 10 minutes. But I put all my dots down, and it really starts to give it a little bit more of a focus and a little bit more of a texture, a little bit more oomph. I don't know if you can kind of see, if there's a way that I can show you, but you can there you go. You can kind of see that there is just a little bit of texture. Not boom, so bumpy, like if I felt it, it's definitely a bumpy surface. So that would be kind of cool. But just enough so that it's going to kind of catch the light. Now what do? Well, now is where I can really start to, kind of finesse it a little bit and wrap it up and put those finishing touches on it. So when I look at this, I see that there's something I didn't do. And one of those things was that I did not put those wonderful lines. Take for reference. There's kind of like a line that goes down the center of the starfish's arm and kind of around this star shape that's in the center. So I want to put that line in. So I'm going to take a little bit of my flow medium, put it off to the side here, find a spot, and I'll just put it off in the center of my palette. You may not be able to see this over here. But there goes another brush. Time to get a bigger table. If you've watched any of our other videos in here, you hear me complain about the things I need to do to improve my studio since I'm now live streaming. Normally if it fell on the brush, I can pick it up. Now I'm like, I need a bigger table. My easel needs to be on wheels and all this thing. It's fine. I'll make do. All right, so I've got my flow medium, and I'm going to have a little bit of my warm white because I want to make those white lines. There we go. Put that off to the side. Let me just turn this so you can see a little bit more. There you go. Warm white, flow medium. And now I'm taking my liner brush. A lot of times you can make do with different brushes that you have and just, work with it. You're an artist. You're an artist because you're watching this video, you make things. So you can do it. I have confidence in you. But I have found that these liner brushes are very, very, very handy for certain things. Lines, writing, things like that. So a long liner brush is definitely, you will use it. And I found that they're the best for things like this. So I'm going to just take my painting knife that I have over here, and I'm just going to mix up a nice mix of my flow medium with my warm white. So you hear me doing over there. I would not want to use my liner brush to mix this up. If you don't have a knife, you could just use another brush, but don't use your liner brush to mix. Not what it's designed to do. You want to keep it for what it is. And then I load it up, like so. And now, real light hand. I'm just going to go over some of these. Did you hear me make my noise again? I've learned a lot about myself doing these live stream videos, all that, the way that I talk to myself and the noises that I make. I do apologize. There we go. And get my lines down here for my arms. Just these little, see the difference between this arm, these two arms, and the other ones? It just helps bring it together a little bit more. Love it. All right. We might go a little bit past an hour, but not much longer. I don't want to rush, but I don't want to keep everyone, away from everything that we need to do with life. Again, if you have any questions at all about this technique, about painting, contact me. About Erica's pattern, by all means, go to Erica Joanne's website, contact one of her certified teachers. The work that she does is amazing and so whimsical and beautiful. And not this, it's definitely her own wonderful technique, and you'll want to check it out. She and her teachers are just an amazing, amazing bunch, and we're really grateful for them to provide this creativity when we really could use it right now. Now, I was talking to you and not really looking at my canvas as I was painting, and this is just way too straight. I don't like that as much. Oh well, I'll see what I can do to soften that line. All right, that's a little bit better. Okay, now what do I want to do? Well, I could, if I wanted to, maybe add some more color to the background over here, but I'm going to end up transferring some writing here. So I'm going to let my flow medium dry there. And instead, while I've got my liner brush out, is there something I want to do? And you know what? Maybe I'll take just another drop of that flow medium over here. And I'm going to take some of that burnt sienna, mix it up. A little bit of warm white got into it, but that's okay. And now where some of my dots are, I'm just going to add a little bit of shading to them. Now, this is where you could get fussy and just really, add so many dots. The next thing you know, you're creating a scientific illustration versus kind of like a loose impressionistic painting. Oh, and I've got paint on my arm. I wonder what I got on me. Not unusual for me when I do these. So don't do too crazy, but it's nice to have these dots to have some dimension in it. If you were doing Erica's pattern and following her ways, she probably would suggest maybe using that gray pencil or one of the other pencils that she uses. Again, I don't have those at my disposal, so I'm just using what I've got. Probably could use a Payne's gray, probably would have been nice in here. Maybe if I mix this up a little bit with something, just a little bit. Mostly concerned about here, I want to break up this straight line. A little too straight for me, a little too precise. There we go. And it's definitely looking like it has some cool texture on it. All right, I can live with this for now. So what I think I might do next is, just because I had that flow meeting, I'm going to annoy you for one more second. I'm so sorry. And have you view my messianic. I'm going to dry this real fast with a hair dryer because I want to transfer my letters on and show you how I do those. So again, low it, low. With a surface dryer. There we go. You might want to do it longer if you actually are trying to do it. As surface dry as all I'm looking for right now. A couple areas that I still saw were wet. I'm just going to take my rag and just go over. A little sticky here, just because I'm going to be transferring there and here. All right, that should work out well. All right, so over here, if you remember, I have one of my ones that I actually use, one of my templates. Now what I want to do is that I want to go over my Mermaid Kisses area and my Starfish Wishes using my charcoal. I'll put this off to the side. I think I just got charcoal on my face. Put this off to the side. I'm going to find my charcoal, which of course is off to the side, yes. And I am just going to color in that area, which I need to do. I'll move this off to the side. You can see all I do is just go over it. And did I get it all? Yep. And then up here, there we go. So I've now transferred, put charcoal on those areas. So now I'll start with the Mermaid Kisses. And I'm going to put it where I think it should be, about here. And then I'm going to look for my pencil, which of course is now when I need it. But I have a spare one. Unfortunately, it's not my purple one. It's a black one. But this will be able to help me transfer. I think it's sharp enough. See, I can peek. It is. Her nice writing style. My writing is not nearly as nice. So I want to use this nice flowy style here. Again, if you're finding it hard to press down on the canvas, put something behind it to make it a little bit stiffer. I'm finding it a little soft right now. It's not a really drum tight canvas. That's kind of what I like. So put that there. Mermaid Kisses. Mermaid Kisses would be so nice. Telling you what, this pattern is so sweet and it would look so great, you know, just hanging up anywhere in your house or as a wonderful gift for a friend. Anyone who could use a little bit of summer love right now. What a great thing to do. You know, the way that Erica has it designed on her paper, she recommends, you know, making it a card and just sending it to someone. How lovely would that be right now? All right. There are my Mermaid Kisses. Transfer. And now I'm going to put my Starfish Wishes here. All right. Starfish Wishes. Yep, I'm thinking maybe 15 more minutes. Maybe. We'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for hanging out and, you know, watching me paint. By all means, again, please, you know, like Chroma, like our page, you know, like me, like my page, so you can keep up to date on what we do. And when we're doing our live videos, we try and have 1 or 2 a week on different techniques, different paint-alongs like this. Sometimes it's just a quick Artist 101 series. All right, there we go. So now I've got my Mermaid Kisses and Starfish Wishes. Now, what could you do with this? Maybe you'd want to use an artist pen. Maybe you'd want to use something else. For me, I'm going to use my liner brush. I'm seeing notifications pop up on my screen, and hopefully I'm still streaming and still doing good. All right. So I've got my flow medium here. And I just realized I just mixed it in white. White wouldn't be bad, and white would be okay, but I don't think it would show up as nicely. What I wanted to mix it up with is I'm going to use a little bit of black umber, the black umber paint here, and I like this better than just a regular carbon black because it's just a little bit earthier. There we go. The black umber is a mixture of our pigment brown 7 as well as our pigment black 7. So it's just a little, and it'll go nicer with this. Those subtle differences. Flow medium is over here. A little bit of flow medium off to the side. And now I'm just going to take another brush because I don't want to mix with my liner. I'm going to mix this up to a nice flowing paint. There we go. All right, that looks good. I'm going to load my liner brush here. I like to swirl it around so it's a nice loaded brush. And now I'm just going to pull this a little bit closer to me so that I can, actually, you know what, I'll start at the bottom here. And I'm just going to start wherever I think I can go. Well, start. If you're not familiar with using a liner, if you're not familiar with writing and kind of writing with paint, just practice off to the side on a piece of paper, on a piece of scrap paper, on a piece of junk mail. Just, you know, get some paint and just, you know, try it out. There we go. Oh, this is looking good. There. And going around. I am by no means an expert at using one of these brushes. I think I can honestly say this is probably the 5th time, maybe between 10 times I've used it. You know, even when I sign my paintings, I tend to use an artist marker, and I sign them on the back too. Starfish. So but I did take the time to practice, so I wasn't a total goofball when I did this. I say that before I'm actually finished. Perhaps I should hold my tongue there, Missy. Don't get all cocky and speak before you should. All right. Yeah, that's a little too harsh right there, but it'll be fine. Starfish wishes. Oh, if I could have a starfish wish, what would my wish be? My wish obviously would be for everyone to be healthy and that we can all kind of return back to our lives as normal. That's certainly what my wish would be for. And I wish for some beautiful 70-degree days. We had a wonderful, wonderful, weekend here in Pennsylvania, where our U.S. offices for Chroma are based out of. It was just, it was lovely. Ooh, that's too dark. Oopsies. So I'd wish for a May filled with 70-degree days. Wouldn't that be nice? Health and 70-degree days. A couple of them could be cloudy. That'd be fine. We could have a couple nice rainy days. To stay inside and hang out and snuggle with my kids and play board games and whatnot. That would be fun. There we go. Starfish wishes. All you're doing is just painting over your lines, painting over those shapes. There we go. So that stands out well. And now I'm going to do the Mermaid Kisses, but I'm going to do them upside down. And part of it is because I don't want to run my hand right over that. All right, so I'm going to be starting here at the bottom. If this is a little bit too funky for you, then don't worry about it. Normally, if I had been doing this on my own, I probably would have started at the top and worked my way down. But for the magic of television, the magic of Facebook Live, I'm doing it this way. All they are shapes. At least that's what I keep telling myself and hoping that my words are spelled right and they don't end up all wonky when I turn it over. Art school story. Back in the day, that was one of the exercises that I had to do where we had to take a photo and use that as our reference, but we had to paint it upside down. Like we literally would take our reference, turn it upside down, and that's what you worked from. You were not supposed to turn it right side up. And what that did was that it kind of helped your brain paint the shapes and not paint what you think it's supposed to be. It was really kind of interesting. I see this fuzz right there, and I don't like it. All right. Okay. Boop. This is looking good. Don't mess it up now, Jen. Please, 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 please. All right. My paint's getting a little transparent, so I'm just going to make sure that I have enough paint on my liner again. There we go. Because I want a nice opaque paint. Another helpful reason for doing something this way is that I'm not going onto wet paint. I'm going over to the side of my dominant hand. So I'm working from left to right. And how am I in time? Oh, not too bad. Just a little over. I usually try and wrap these up in an hour, but thank you so much for staying. And thanks for watching this paint along. It's a fun way to spend kind of a gray, at least just a little gray and kind of rainy day here in Pennsylvania. Mermaid wishes. I loved mermaids when I was a girl. I grew up on the shore and I used to look for them all the time. I remember one of my favorite books from the library was The Book of Mermaids. I don't know who made it, but it was just an old book that was filled with fairy tales from around the world all about mermaids. How they would brush their hair and pearls would come out of it. And mermaids always seemed a little stuck up and a little weird, but there were some beautiful sad tales in there. Tales of the silkies, the ones that would turn into seals, and the really awful mermaids that would lead the sailors to their doom with their siren song. But for the most, and some of the mermaids weren't good. And let's not even go into the original Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen. That's just tragic. Look! Enough about fairy tales. Look how cool that looks. Ta-da! You know what? There's only one thing that can make this better. For Erica Joanne, it was when it was dry. She applied some little rhinestone with glue gun. I don't have rhinestones, but what could make it better but glitter, 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 glitter. I know people have a love-hate relationship with glitter. I'm on the love side. This is our Chroma glitter paint. We kind of created it for our educational markets. If you've got the josonja opal dust, perfect for this technique. I do not have that on hand, but I did have the glitter paint, and my kids love to use this, and so that's what I'm going to use. So I've got some glitter paint in some of this blue. I've got my glitter paint here in this turquoise. So I'm just going to put some down. The reason this is fun, it is a controlled use of glitter. It is not going to flake off and get everywhere the way that glitter can. There is a song that's very popular with the kids these days about like a glitter monster. Glitter, glitter, everything's coming up glitter. And the glitter turns into a monster. It's kind of funny. All right, so now I've got my glitter paint. What am I going to do with it? I don't want to go all over with my glitter paint. What I'm going to do is I want to use my toothbrush. You know, someone made a point here about I didn't dot my eyes. I think the reason I didn't dot my eyes because they were going to be little hearts. So let's put my little heart right there. Boop. Thank you for the reminder. Boop. And it gets me off my glitter. Ta-da! Now it's even better. All right, so back to my toothbrush. This is where if you have an old toothbrush, it can be so handy. So I'm going to take a little bit of my glue glitter and a little blue glitter and turquoise glitter. Dot it on. There we go. Now I could kind of just take some spots and just kind of dot it on. Nope, too harsh. Don't want to do that. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to splatter it on. Just enough. Kind of pull it all over. Now, dots, all over dots can be great to help pull something on. There we go. Boop, boop. It's best to do this with a dry brush. I did this, I washed my brush, so it's a little bit wetter than I want it to be. I washed it just before I came on here. There we go. You know, having this all over color with little bits of spots helps just pull it all in. I am getting my paint everywhere. So this you might want to make sure you do in a box just so you don't have paint scattered. I think I got some paint on the camera. Sorry. Sorry, Catherine, if there's glitter on the paint. I have a coworker that does not like glitter at all. All right. But it's okay because it's controlled glitter and it will not flake off. Oh my gosh, can you see how it's sparkly? Can you see how it just picks up a little bit of that shimmer? It's not an obnoxious glitter because it just adds just a little bit. Again, I say if you have the opal dust, how fun would this be? A little pearlescent. Maybe I have some silver paint here too, which maybe I'll go in and I'll add some silver dots mixed with that atelier gel. It's a fun technique. So I think I will try and wrap this up. So what were the steps that I did? Well, first I had a wonderful pattern from the very talented and very amazing artist, Erica Joanne, and definitely we'll be linking to her site so you can check it out and you can go and see her wonderful patterns, her wonderful certified teachers that will be able to show you really how this is done in her amazing style. Then I took my pattern, I blew it up to fit in just an 8x10 canvas. I did not do anything special to my canvas. I kept it the way that it was. I did not add gesso or an all-purpose sealer because of this technique, because I wanted to have some washing surfaces going on. And so then I transferred my pattern. I used this charcoal on the back of my paper, my pattern. I used a sharp colored pencil so that I could see what I actually managed to transfer. From there, I applied my washes of jade and sapphire, applied some washes of wild rose and mustard seed. Used a paper towel or a rag to create these mottled effects. When it was dry, I did a little bit more if I needed to get a little bit more depth. I did some shading using my Nimbus Gray mixed with my sapphire just around the edges of my starfish, following the shading pattern that Erica includes with her pattern packet. When that was all dry, I also modeled my starfish some more. I added some of the oh my gosh, I just love of my burnt sienna to make to increase my values. Again, in her pattern, she'll be having you use some colored pencil. A lot of people find that a little bit easier to control if you're new to it. Then I added my dots and I mixed my warm white dots with some atelier gel. You could also use our josonja texture paste. Then I transferred my letters, used flow medium with some black umber to get so I had a nice fluid. Use my liner brush for that. Definitely that's something you want to use your liner brush for. And then I used some of our Chroma glitter paint and just kind of scattered some on there. Opal dust would be a wonderful thing to do with that too. Just add a little bit of shimmer and shine because I'm a shimmer and shine kind of girl. All right, and that's about it. And there's Mermaid Kisses and Starfish Wishes, a wonderful way to, bring on summertime and have some good feelings and have some love and good wishes. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jennifer Von Stein. I am Chroma's resident artist. If you have any questions at all, just pop them in the feed, shoot me an email. We'll make sure that my email address is in our feed. You can always contact Chroma via any of our social channels as well. Our U.S. offices are closed for the moment. We hope to be reopened very soon. Erica, definitely thank you so much. We'll be linking to Erica Joanne's site as well. Amazing artist with amazing teachers. And thank you, josonja, for such great paints too. These paints are just so much fun to work with. All right, like Chroma's page, like my page. Guys, wash your hands, stay safe, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much.